The college football playoff is set. Michigan's your 1 seed. Washington is your 2 seed. Texas checks in as your 3 seed. And Alabama coming in after an impressive win in the SEC championship game, coming in as your 4 seed. Undefeated Florida State left out. Ted, did the committee get it right? What say you, sir?
In my opinion, yes, they got it right. Controversial, I understand. I think it just comes down to like each person, what they value. For me, I think they got it right. But you'll never be able to convince someone who thinks that Florida State should be in because they're undefeated conference champion. And I mean, I'm not saying that that's not a good argument. I mean, I understand it. There's just a line between who's the best and who deserves it. I get that. Unfortunately, it's the system we have. I think these 4 teams give us the best matchups. Like ultimately what I don't want is a dud game. And I think if Florida State had been in, that's the biggest opportunity for a dud game. We could still get them. I fully understand that. That happens. But Florida State, it was clear to me watching them last night against Louisville, when compared to Michigan and Washington and Texas and Alabama, without Jordan Travis, they're just not on that same level with those teams. So to me, they got it right. But I totally understand the argument the other way. You know, it's just the system that we're in, and what do you prefer?
So looking at the ACC championship game, what a performance by Florida State's defense. Louisville is not some slappy offense like Iowa. That's a team that scored some points this year. And Florida State's defense was nails. And maybe the play of the game was the punter not punting the ball when it was clearly going to get blocked. Just eating it. And then their defense gets the interception. But I was really, really impressed by that defensive performance. And really the difference in the game may have been the Lawrence Toafili Wildcat stuff. Florida State's issue in that game, it wasn't the fact that Brock Glenn didn't do much. That certainly didn't help, but I don't think anyone expected him to do much. The part that really hurt him was that Tate Rodemaker couldn't play. I think if Rodemaker plays and they look decent, it would have been a much tougher decision for the committee to leave him out. But him not being available in the way that it looked for him offensively, I mean, Brock Glenn was just out there trying not to mess it up.
Yeah.
Did you see Jordan Travis's tweet?
Yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah, I know. I feel horrible for him. I feel horrible for that team. I mean, I understand the frustration of we beat everyone that was put in front of us, and we're in a Power 5 conference. I understand all of that, and there's no like deciding argument for me, because the whole thing is it's up to a committee. It's up to each individual to how they rate different criteria. So I mean, there really is no. I sat down there and listened to, I don't know, way too long of the college football selection show, right? And I heard a million different arguments for both ways, and I'm not convinced. Like, you could sit there and pound it through to me forever, and I'm not convinced that Florida State, if they're in, doesn't have a big opportunity of getting blown out by one of these other teams.
Yeah, I think that Michigan's reaction at their watch party to Alabama being the 4 seed was
I didn't see that.
Oh, not exactly a thrilled response from the Wolverines in the ballroom. It was a, okay, here we go type reaction. And that is going to be, the Rose Bowl is going to be amazing. I'm telling you right now, Alabama's going to beat them. But
I agree.
I don't think you can say what you want about the SEC. If it were up to me, an SEC team wouldn't have made it. I would have had Florida State in at 4. But with Alabama in the, and we have to stop pretending like it's only about this season. That's just not reality. That's just not reality. And I don't know why the College Football Playoff Committee can't say that publicly. Bama is in because the SEC has dominated college football at the highest level for a long time now, and they won the SEC title. It's that simple. It's not any more complicated than that. And that was an impressive win. I'm going to try to weave like our conference championship game recaps into this discussion. I'm going to try my best, Ted. Jalen Milroe, his mobility clearly terrified Georgia's defense. I mean, they were doing some things defensively. It looked like they were spying him with 2 different guys at times. I mean, the respect that he was commanding from Kirby Smart in that defense, that was something. Now, I think the threat of him running is, I mean, his athleticism is terrifying for a defense. It's terrifying. And Georgia looked like an absolute wagon to start that game. And Bama just weathered the storm and got it done. Turns out this Nick Saban guy can coach a little bit. I've got no problem with them being the 4 seed. I really don't. I hate it for Florida State. I hate it for those guys. They did everything they were asked to do. They just don't have Nick Saban, and they don't have, they're not in the SEC.
Well, they don't have their quarterback. If they had their quarterback, the conversation is totally different.
Right.
Totally different.
They're in if Jordan Travis, which by the way, remember, he broke his leg in a meaningless football game. So brutal. If they had him, he'd be in. And I think the SEC would have been left out.
Well,
or maybe they leave Texas out in that scenario. That's probably the more likely scenario.
I don't know. And then you just have another team that's really pissed off, right? Because maybe you have Texas that's left out. And for a team that they beat, so there are no good answers, as you could see, but I don't know, man. You're right. Alabama and the way that Milroe looked, to me, they look like decidedly the best team in the country last night. And that's saying something, because Georgia is incredible. Michigan has been like just lights out. It was an impressive performance.
What their defense did against that Georgia running game was impressive. Completely limited the explosives. Georgia's longest run in the game was 17 yards. And then, Georgia, they didn't help themselves. The turnover on the missed time reverse, you just hand Bama a field goal, you end up losing by 3. Not great. But what is great? The 47-game win streak is safe, Ted. It's safe.
I was watching the games at a friend's house here in the neighborhood, and like one of the things I started laughing at whenever I saw that reverse is like how that play is treated differently for team to team. Had Oklahoma done something like that in a game, we're just absolutely brutalized for that. Trying to get cute, all of these things. Like, I don't know. I thought when I saw that, I was just laughing, like, because I doubt that Kirby Smart and team are going to get hammered the way some other teams would if they did a play like that and made a big mistake in a pivotal moment. But I don't know. It's part of that is kind of telling you like what they felt like they had to do to generate some offense.
Right. No, I was really impressed with Bama. That defense is for real, man.
Even like down on the goal line and stuff, like Georgia was not moving them off of football at all.
It's like this Bama team's got a bunch of good players or something,
No,
and they're really well coached. It's strange.
shocker.
What'd you think of Texas coming in at 3?
I don't think they're like I'm fine with the way that the Final Four set up. I think those are all the best games that we could have had. Do I think Texas is better than Alabama right now? No, I don't. I if I was asked to honestly rank them 1 through 4, I would have Alabama at number 1. If I'm saying who I think the best team of the group is, I'd have Alabama there. But I'm happy with the matchups. To me, doesn't end up being that important.
Yeah, I think that Washington Texas matchup's really interesting.
I do too.
Because if you're looking at the weakness of Texas's defense, it's probably the back end. Their front 7. Once again, just Oklahoma State couldn't do anything in the run game.
Nope.
In the Big 12 championship game. I'm not sure how much analysis we need of that one. That was a mismatch.
Yep.
Oklahoma State's their defense just looked so slow compared to Texas's wide receivers. I mean, how many balls did Ewers throw around the line of scrimmage and guys were just uncovered running down the field with a head of steam? Yeah. I mean, it was just over and over and over again. It just looked like a complete athleticism mismatch.
It was. Yeah, it was. And credit Texas. It feels like they're a hungry football team, and the Texas of old would have coughed this season up down the stretch. And there were several opportunities for Texas to do that this year. And like they made some of those games close, but they went out and earned it. And you gotta credit them for that. And I think they're going to be entering the postseason playing perhaps some of their best football of the year. And I know they don't have Brooks, and that's going to be a factor, but it feels like they're getting healthy out of some of the other spots that are important.
Yeah. They've got 4 weeks to figure out how to come up with a coverage plan against those Washington wide receivers.
Yeah.
Whew. Best of luck.
They got size, they got athleticism, they've got everything. And they got a quarterback that is not scared to push it down the field.
Washington has, I think they'd rather be the 2 seed and play Texas than be the 1 seed and play Bama. But I think they've got a decent argument that they should have been the 1 seed, because I know this, they're a better football team than Oregon.
Beat them
twice.
First
time they set the tone early, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you can look at the first game and say, did Washington win it, or did Oregon kind of lose that one? This game, in my opinion, I thought Washington was clearly the better football team.
Oregon had there's a lot of discussion now about the middle 8. Oregon had a hell of a middle 8 and even took the lead late in the 3rd, but Washington did what championship teams do. They finished the job in the 4th quarter. And Michael Penix, I don't know what that man took before the game, but he looked as healthy as he's looked in a long time, and that dude was spinning it. Deep over route after deep over route after deep over route, just dropping it in. That didn't matter if he was getting hit, didn't matter if he was feeling pressure. And I actually thought Washington's offensive line did a really nice job with how much they put on him in pass protection. But he made the one mistake with the overthrow on the interception. But other than that, that man is good. And he's got wide receivers that are legit.
And it's so interesting. It looks like he's It looks like he's throwing a spear or something more than a football. The way, you know what I'm saying? It's got a look to it that is different than anyone else in college football. And I know he's the lefty, but it's got it's like when it gets halfway to its target, it takes off again. It's such a cool looking ball that he throws. That's back to my originals. I like these four teams and I like the matchups a lot.
Yeah. I think that when you look at that Pac-12 championship game, people just thought Oregon was a more complete team.
Yeah.
And people were wrong. And credit to Kalen DeBoer, man. That man is about to get paid. Washington they need to pay that man so that he doesn't, so that no one else even looks at him. But they controlled the line of scrimmage. They were the more physical football team. Dylan Johnson, with as banged up as the broadcast was making it sound like he was, that dude balled out. I don't know why he was wearing a hood inside, but that's but other than that, tremendous performance, especially if he was as banged up as they led us to believe. But yeah, Bo Nix, opportunity was there. And there was a lot on the line for that team. There was a lot on the line for Bo Nix, and they weren't able to get it done. And the question has to be asked, does Dan Lanning have a Washington problem?
Yeah.
Because it looks that way through his first two seasons.
Now, I'm curious to see. I feel like Oregon is on a better path to maintain what they've done maybe than Washington is. And I mean, both teams are heavily quarterback dependent. Neither one of those teams are anywhere near as good as they are if they don't have those quarterbacks. But I feel like Oregon is in a slightly better position moving forward. Like if you take quarterback out of it, and we'll see who those guys end up with. And you know, maybe it's a quarterback competition again between the two. But I kind of like, and maybe it's just I know a little bit more about them. I kind of like where Oregon is moving forward. You know, if you remove the quarterback position out of the equation.
I am with you. I think Dan Lanning knows exactly where he needs to get that roster to be an elite team in college football. He saw it firsthand at Georgia, and I think Phil Knight is going to strap him with the cash to do so.
He's got, and I'm sure Washington has some great resources. I don't know. I don't know enough about their NIL program and all of that, but I'm sure there's some serious backing there. They're surrounded by billionaires with where that stadium is. I mean, you could probably get up on the top row and see a bunch of billionaires' houses out on the lake from where that thing sits. And I don't know how much of that they're able to pull into that program, but we know that Oregon has a tremendous amount of resources.
Yeah, I'm not selling any Oregon stock anytime soon. I think they're going to be in the mix for many more years to come. Any thoughts on Michigan? I think they earned that one seed. They've been an absolute wagon this season. Iowa. Where was that bar where they were passing out free beer until Iowa scored? How many people died there? Is everyone okay?
Woo. Yeah, that was brutal. But here's the weird thing. I totally expected a similar score to what we saw, but I'm still not sure how good Michigan is to a certain degree. Do you feel that way?
I am alarmed, and I pointed it out several times now on the pod. Their lack of explosiveness in the passing game alarms me, especially when you start thinking about that matchup with Bama.
Yeah, those three other teams are all explosive in the pass game, very explosive.
Milroe is going to let that thing fly down the field. Now, he didn't have huge stats in the SEC championship game, but Tommy Rees, they're going to take their shots. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. And Michigan, they've struggled to protect McCarthy. I mean, how many times did he get sacked in this game? There's a lot.
Yeah.
And Iowa's got a really, really good defense. But I don't know, man. I just, they're not going to be able to out Bama. They're
Yeah.
not going to be able to just line up and run it right at them. They're not going to be able to do that, dude. They're going to have to make explosive plays in the passing game. And that has been the least impressive part of Michigan's team over the last month or so.
Yeah. And just to kind of build on that, some of the corner play that I witnessed from Alabama last night in that game was incredible. And some of them were getting flagged. And I'm like, that is not a flag. That is just picture perfect coverage by a corner.
How about that freshman linebacker just flying around making plays? I'm going, good.
Guys everywhere. Yep.
The only thought I have on the Big Ten championship game really is it's not a great sign when your number one highlight from the game for your team is a guy displaying incredible effort on punt coverage when he missed the tackle, and then you gave up an 87-yard punt return. It's an incredible effort play. But when that's your number one highlight from the game, I think that kind of tells you how the game went. Like, look at this guy's incredible effort. And it was awesome. Every team across the country is going to see that play. But yeah, that was the highlight of the game for Iowa.
That's it. Giving up a massive explosive play is the highlight. I don't think the Big Ten is about to experience the best rescheduling, whatever you want to call it, of the way their conference operates. It's about to change the entire dynamic of that conference in a good way. It has, for far too long, been the three best teams in the same division deciding the conference championship before you even play in the conference championship game. And I hate to say it, Iowa is going to be the biggest loser in the way the Big Ten is going to be played moving forward. They are not going to be able to be a totally average football team and coast their way through for the duration like they have been in recent years.
The Big Ten West closes out the league's division era going 0-10 in title games.
Incredible.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm excited for the Big Ten shakeup that's coming next season for sure. But other than Harbaugh running away from the Gatorade bath, not many takeaways from that game. Iowa they gave Michigan such incredible field position throughout that game. I was really impressed with Iowa's defense. I thought they were fantastic. They lost 26-0. I thought those guys played their absolute asses off. But the offense is, ooh.
Well, you get to a certain point where you've shown such an aptitude on offense that Michigan is going to start calling a game not to lose it more than to put up points and to try and go down the field. It's like we just can't afford a mistake right now. So I think that helps them out, but they do have a legit defense. You can't make your way to the championship game and put up the record they did, scoring the amount of points they did without having a really good defense.
They should have thrown $2 million at Andy Kotelnicki. And instead he's going to be at Penn State. You fudged up Iowa.
I felt the exact same way. You can maintain a lot of kind of your identity with what you, like how you've operated. You know, here's the big difference though. Iowa, it's been a long time since they've had any real playmaker at quarterback. A long time. And that's ultimately what holds them back.
That was just such a strange game to watch. My goodness. It was 10-0 and it felt like it was 65-0.
It was a strange game to watch, but it unfolded exactly how you knew it would. You know, it's weird to watch it actually unfold in front of you.
Any final thoughts on the college football playoff?
I don't think so. I think it was difficult. I think this year showed a lot of the flaws in the system. It's a good one to end on. The 12-team playoff is going to be so much better. It's going to push that debate a little bit further down. Like, we would have been the team right now it's different, but in Florida State's position, saying, seriously, how would we be left out of this thing right now? But that's just how it would be. So I love the matchups. I think they got it right. I hate that there's not a better way to do it, but I think this should be a good 14 playoff.